Well, welcome everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kelly Neff. I'm a National Cloud Marketing Manager here at Veeam. I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation hosted by Offsite DataSync and Veeam Software. You know, the partnership between Offsite DataSync and Veeam goes back many years. Offsite DataSync is a nationally recognized, award-winning, platinum-level cloud and service provider for Veeam. They work with hundreds of customers like you to deliver best-in-class data backup and disaster recovery services. I mean, just believe me, ODS, they know their stuff. So today our topic is about backing up Office 365 simply and effectively, and how Offsite DataSync can help make your job a lot easier. Your presenters today are Brad Jervis, Senior Cloud Architect from Offsite DataSync, and Brandon McCoy, Cloud Systems Engineer at Veeam. Today they're going to cover what you really need to know about keeping your Office 365 data backed up and available. So as we get started, all the participants will be in listen-only mode, but I encourage you, if you have questions, please put them in the question box of the webinar panel, and at the end of the presentation, I'll come back and get your questions answered. So without further delay, I'm going to turn the stage over to Brad from Offsite DataSync. Brad?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kelly. Thank you for joining us today, and Brandon, thank you as well. We really appreciate it, and thank you everyone who has showed up to join us and listen to some of the cool things that we've come up with in combination with Veeam to try and deliver a backup solution for Office 365, which, as you'll soon find out, a lot of people don't really understand or realize that they need. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to discuss today. First, we're going to go through some data loss risk scenarios. So what is and what is not covered by Microsoft? What does Microsoft say that they are going to cover as far as backing up and protecting your data within Office 365, what the reality is, and what you as the customer are responsible for? We're going to go through a QuickStart guide of how you can quickly get set up with Office 365 backup provided by Offsite DataSync powered by Veeam. It's a few clicks and you're ready to rock and roll. We're going to do a quick live demo of Office 365 backup with Offsite DataSync. We're going to show you a few things there. It's going to be really cool. We're going to talk about some of the competition and what other options are out there and show you some comparisons. And then we're going to do a quick Q&A so you folks have the opportunity to say, well, this is all well and good, but what about my particular use case? So you're certainly going to have that option at the end. Just letting you know, there is a questions item within the GoToWebinar. Feel free to ask questions. We'll probably end up reserving a lot of those questions until the end and then answer them so everyone can get to hear them and hear those resolutions. But feel free to ask them as you see fit throughout the course of the webinar here. Great. So why do I need a backup for Office 365? Doesn't Microsoft take care of it? Well, as you can see here, this is the biggest misunderstanding in the Office 365 market. You hear, okay, email as a service, OneDrive as a service, SharePoint as a service. Clearly, Microsoft must be backing these up as part of the service. Well, they kind of don't. It's a little bit of a mix. They do a little bit, but they mostly take care of the infrastructure. But your data belongs to you. Sure, you might have your data in Microsoft's infrastructure, but it's your responsibility as the customer to ensure that any retention that you might need via or for compliance or whatever else is met by you, because that's not Microsoft's responsibility. And they actually go quite in depth as far as what their responsibility is versus your responsibility. So again, Microsoft Global Infrastructure, obviously it's their job to keep that up. Your Office data, your access and control of your data, that's your job. So they do data replication. So they'll actually do geo-redundancy of your data. However, if you delete that data yourself, well, that geo-redundancy is going to also confirm that deletion. So it may not exist even if we're going somewhere from, let's say, the East Coast to the West Coast because you decided to delete it. So it's your responsibility to keep your Office 365 backup data stored in a different location. Microsoft does keep a recycle bin for you, which is all well and good. We have limited short-term data loss recovery. There's no point-in-time recovery or anything, but, hey, it's better than nothing. Your responsibility is to keep the full data retention. So if you need to keep data, whether or not it's been deleted for X amount of time based on corporate or compliance initiatives, that's your responsibility. Microsoft says, here's your limited recycle bin. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, that's not our problem. For security, obviously Microsoft needs to keep their security up on their infrastructure. And for data level security, that's your role. So anything as far as accidental deletion, any kind of malicious users or insiders, employee retaliation, evidence tampering, anything like that, even as going so far as ransomware, malware, hackers, rogue applications, Microsoft can't be held responsible for any kind of infection that might penetrate your Office 365 environment. With Office 365 syncing, maybe you'll get some ransomware or something that'll sync up to the cloud. It's not Microsoft's responsibility to be able to ensure that that doesn't happen. That's you as the user of Office 365's responsibility to ensure that if that does happen, or to prevent that from happening, but if it does happen, to ensure that that data is backed up and that you can restore it in a simple and practical manner back into Office 365. And again, as far as regulations go, Microsoft keeps up their regulations as needed, HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, everything else, but any kind of regulations that you as a business owner, or you as an employee of a business need to keep up with that Microsoft may not have activity for, as far as keeping long-term email retention, compliance, things of that nature, that's on you, and that demands internal legal and compliance officers to be able to ensure that your data is being backed up and accessible in the event that you need to recall it for compliance or regulatory reasons. Great. So without a backup of your Office 365 data, you have limited access and control of your own data. Your retention policy is going to be up to what Microsoft deems, which we'll learn a little bit more about in the next slides up here. You have security vulnerabilities. You don't really know and have a good understanding that your data is secure, and that if it is compromised, that Microsoft is going to be able to help you in any way to recover that data. And if you're in an industry that is under any sort of regulatory compliance, you have a lot of regulatory exposure, especially if you're in some of those industries that require you to keep email long-term, such as years and things like that. And to go over some of the different retention policies and what Microsoft does and doesn't do as far as the recycle bin, I'm going to just pass it over to Brandon very quickly here. Brandon, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. So I'm a system engineer over here with Veeam on the cloud side, and our retention policies for Office 365 are something that's often misunderstood with both customers and service providers alike. And so with Veeam, we offer a much more easy way to manage those. So here we see a typical retention policy with Office 365. From the chart here, we can kind of see that after a month, your deleted items are permanently moved. Things with SharePoint and OneDrive as well, or when employees leave a company and they're no longer part of that Office 365. So these policies are always changing as well, right? So it's easy to see on the slide here. Maybe you can just kind of take a look from an eye chart perspective. But when you're in a real life business scenario, sometimes it's hard to remember when things are going to be purged, or even if your own employees start to delete items maybe without your knowledge, and then when you go back to find them, you realize that they're no longer there. Which also kind of brings us into, to the next slide here, the average length of time. So you see this little box here kind of showing the split from when an item is deleted or compromised to when an administrator actually realizes that it's happened. In many cases, it's already too late, right? 140 days is the average there, while default setting protections of Office 365 are 30 to 90 days. So by the time you go to look for that email, it's already too late, right? And then that kind of brings us into this slide here. So with Veeam and with Offsite Data Sync, we're able to keep your retention as long as you need. So that's, you set the retention periods. If you want to keep your data forever, that's fine. And it's really easy to see here that that's a lot simpler of a way to manage these backups. So that's really all I had on the retention settings. I'll turn it over back to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brandon. Folks, Brandon is an expert in Veeam for Office 365 backup. So if you have any questions about how it works, anything about the underlying technology, please let us know. And towards the end of the presentation, we'll be having a Q&A, and both myself and Brandon will be answering those questions. So thank you so much, Brandon. Let's just go through a little bit to show you that we're not telling you, some incorrect items here. So with Office 365, if we go to their Trust Center website, we can say that we can see that that Microsoft says with Office 365, it's your data, you own it, you control it. So when they say that, it's our data. I, as the customer, have that data. It's not Microsoft's responsibility, and they clearly state that right here. So it's certainly something that we need to be aware of as a consumer of Office 365, and to be sure that that we are responsible for our roles, as we recently talked about. All right, so let's go into some data loss scenarios and to see, without Office 365 backup, what might happen, and with Offsite Data Sync, or the Office 365 backup powered by Veeam, how it would look in that case. So first off, without SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business example, John deletes a draft doc from his team site 4 months ago, but now he needs it. So we've all encountered that scenario where you have created a document, you saved it, you ended up deleting it, I don't need it, comes down the line, hey, what about this, let's do this, oh, I already did this 4 months ago, but I deleted it, well, what am I going to do now? So without Office 365 backup, John can't find it in the recycle bin since SharePoint only keeps deleted files for 90 days, and the damage is done, the file's gone forever. If, however, John's organization had Offsite Data Sync's Office 365 backup powered by Veeam, simply John contacts his Office 365 admin. In this case, it's going to be Bob. Bob logs into the backup portal, accesses the backup of the deleted draft, restores it directly to the library in John's team site. Within minutes, John has that document restored. So, simple example of just a way that this is going above and beyond what Microsoft offers in their recycle bin for SharePoint. So the second example is going to be data loss. In this case, we're going to talk a little bit about ransomware. So let's say we have a bunch of project documents. We share them with each other. Each person with editing access syncs a copy to their own system. One person gets ransomware, and his encrypted versions get synced through everyone else to OneDrive. So with Office 365, you might be able to revert to an early version of a pre-ransomware file. You can choose Restore in OneDrive to find a version not effective or not affected. But that version history has limits. So if you don't notice and you get a small ransomware infection and you're unable to restore from the OneDrive restore functionality there, you're basically out of luck. And at that point, you can basically pay the ransom and hope for the best. But as I'm sure a lot of folks have come to realize by now, sometimes that's not always a guaranteed thing. A lot of folks will reuse ransomware code for their own purposes and not bother with trying to actually decrypt your data once they get their bitcoins or whatever else. With Offsite Data Sync Office 365 backup, however, you know your data is backed up, and you can start again or restore from any of those backups that you have configured. And those backups are able to be configured for as often or as least often as you would like. And another data loss scenario, so malicious insiders. So let's say your IT department needs to recover permanently deleted data email records from 1 year ago to comply with a forensic investigation. Let's say someone knew they were doing something that was illegal and they wanted to make sure that they covered their tracks, so they go through and deleted it. Well, if you don't notice that, Office 365, especially Exchange, only keeps a certain amount of time of those emails that folks might have deleted. So if there is a malicious user who might have been doing something that's a bit shady and they go back and delete their Office 365 email, you as an administrator have no control over that. So that basically means that you as an administrator need to be able to police your users from deleting their own data And if they do, you need to find out when they delete it so you can ensure that it's restored to a place that, well, if you need to use it at some point, that it's available and that you can pull these records for compliance and regulatory reasons. Without Office 365 backup, your only options are to utilize deleted items recovery, recovered item recovery, archive mailbox recovery, or Microsoft support. And as we mentioned, if the records have been permanently deleted for over a year, then you're really unlikely to recover them using any of the options above. You might be able to get lucky, but odds are it's not going to be there, and Microsoft is not obligated to ensure that it's there. With Offsite Data Sync Office 365 Backup, however, you can restore any of your records from your backup because that backup is being kept indefinitely. So I'm not going to go through all of these because we do have limited time and we have a lot of cool stuff to show you. But other common Office 365 data loss scenarios are errors during a migration. Maybe you have some data that you're migrating to a different email provider or something, or from an email provider to Office 365. You're going to have some problems with that. So if you need to recover that data, you're kind of out of luck as far as what Microsoft provides. Any kind of security breach, a malicious non-inside user decides to delete a bunch of data that we don't know about, certainly Microsoft's not really going to be able to help you with that. Any kind of damage that might happen on Microsoft's side, now typically we like to think that our cloud providers are going to be 100% highly available and all these data are replicated with copies and everything, but as any wise administrator knows that everyone makes mistakes. About a year ago, AWS was brought down by someone entering a wrong line of code into a command prompt window. It is feasible that this data could be lost. Granted, we like to think Microsoft is on top of their game, and we haven't heard of anyone losing data with Office 365 before. However, it is always nice to understand that you have that data available to you in the event that something were to happen with Microsoft. So you have a fail-safe. You're not just completely relying on Microsoft to keep your data for you. You have backups of that. So if something were to happen, very unlikely, obviously, but any kind of disaster, prepared IT administrator needs to be able to prepare for the worst. Anything were to happen, you have that data secured elsewhere and you can restore it if needed. And then obviously natural disasters that might cause something similar. Let's say you're in an Office 365 data center that was heavily impacted by a tornado or an earthquake or a hurricane. In this case, again, you know that your data is secured off-site in Offsite Data Sync's cloud away from wherever it might be in Office 365. So you're adding an extra level of protection to the accessibility and recoverability of that email, OneDrive, and SharePoint data. So just to recap, while Microsoft does take every measure to maintain the core infrastructure and provide data protection, the ability as an end user to restore that data is very limited. You need to, as an end user, kind of work with Microsoft support. It's not very easy. It's not very intuitive. And the semantics in the Microsoft Trust Center services responsibilities are not always clear. So Microsoft, like a lot of other cloud providers, they'll say they are, going to back you up for this and maybe a little bit longer, but it's a little bit wishy-washy as far as what they're going to do. So that's why we think that it's important to protect your Office 365 infrastructure against data loss, and that's why you need a third-party backup solution in order to ensure that that data is going to be protected, whatever might happen with regards to end users and Microsoft and whatever else. So if you need to convince your management team, you need to spend some time with them, helping them understand the built-in security measures within Office 365 or lack thereof, and what happens when it's time to recover and how long we can go back to recover. And we also need to know what it costs to not being able to recover lost data in terms of money and also employee productivity. So those are obviously a few of the items that we could discuss as far as why this is a necessary solution, but those are probably the two biggest ones when it comes to management. So that being said, you might ask yourself, well, how hard is it to get started? Offsite Data Sync has made it incredibly easy to start your Office 365 cloud-to-cloud backup, and it's going to be in just a few easy clicks. So first, sign into Offsite Data Sync's customer portal. Once you're in there, You have your Office 365 service. It's waiting activation, obviously. You click on Details. You click on Activate. And then you enter in your Office 365 credentials. And there we have it. It's synced into Offsite Data Sync's cloud. We have full access into your Office 365 environment, which, by the way, obviously those credentials are encrypted, just in case anyone was curious. But now we can create our backup jobs in Backup Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint in just 3 easy clicks. It's very simple to set up, very simple. So now we're going to switch over to a live demo, and we're just going to walk through a few of the items that we are going to attempt to restore. Excellent. Okay. So just to walk you through our environment here, we have our main Offsite Data Sync portal at services.offsitedatasync.com, and we have a number of other items if you happen to look at those tabs in the corner there. We have our main ODS testing SharePoint page. We're going to delete a bunch of stuff from this page and show how easy it is to restore. And then we have a OneDrive folder with a bunch of folders and files, and we're going to delete some of those and show you how easy it is to restore. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and log into our Offsite Data Sync portal. And we're using our ODS at ods.rocks domain. Anyone who's a regular viewer of Offsite Data Sync webinars will know that domain by now. This is our domain that we love using for webinars just because the .rocks is a domain name. Awesome. And we're going to enter our super secret password. And perfect. Here we go. We have our Offsite Data Sync connections into Office 365. Here's the one we're currently using. Great. So as you can see, there's a lot of information here. So what we like to do is offer an option to go into simple or advanced mode. Simple, you can just simply see all of your Offsite Data Sync Office 365 jobs. You can restore from the last backup. You can manually run the backup. There's some few options up here, but nothing really crazy. However, for the more advanced users, we're going to switch over to advanced mode. And my web browser looks like it's taking its sweet time here. All right, there we go. Apologies about that. Chrome always gives me issues when I'm running in incognito mode. Okay, great. So here's all of our jobs, and we have a little bit more information now. We can see all of our jobs, their scheduled policies. So as you can see, most of these are set to run daily. They're set to run every day. We can set these to run only on weekdays or only on weekends if necessary. You don't really know why, but you have the option. And this job right here is backing up everything, and it's running at 3 p.m. Now we have a retry number here. This is basically just saying if there does happen to be a blip between, Offsite Data Sync and Office 365, whether that be some, problems going over the WAN, whatever, we're going to retry 3 times. We're going to wait 10 minutes before we retry. You can increase or decrease this as you wish. Typically, these don't get hit because it is going to be a cloud-to-cloud solution. There's not going to be too much interference between them. But just in case, we want to make sure that that data does get backed up, especially if we're only going so far as, recovering once a day. Typically, our customers will go a little bit more. You can also see some other items here. We can go to a restore log. We can see when documents were restored. We can check out some of our Office 365 users by clicking on the Users tab. And we can also check out some of these restore sessions and things of that nature. Let's go ahead and see what we can see as far as our backup. So here we have this backup job. It's called All. I'm just going to go ahead and click here and click on Details. And as we can see, we have our job history here. Now, just giving you a notice, this warning that we see here is just letting us know that we haven't backed up any data. So there might be an underlying problem. In this case, our ods.rocks Office 365 domain isn't really used too much. So we don't really add too much data to it. We don't remove too much data to it. So as you can see, our jobs here all process 0 bytes, 0 bytes, 0 bytes, 0 bytes because, well, it doesn't really change that much. So that's why it's giving us a warning, just letting us know, hey, you aren't backing up any data, you might want to look at this. We can also take a look at restore points and see what items we have. Typically, these are going to align with the job history. And we can take a look at email notifications as well. As you can see, our main admin is ods@ods.rocks, but we can also send additional emails to other folks in the group, whether that's going to be a distribution group to all your engineers or a specific engineer, just to let them know that backups have succeeded or have not succeeded. So you can ensure that your data is going to be protected. You can certainly add that and then update it as necessary. So let's go into our restore points. We're going to go to the latest one, and we're going to hit Browse Point. And as you can see, we have a number of items. We have regular details, Exchange Explorer, SharePoint Explorer, and OneDrive Explorer. Now, we've already done a webinar about backing up Exchange Office 365. For anyone interested, that is available on our YouTube channel. Feel free to go check it out. And we've done some research, and a lot of folks are really curious about the SharePoint Explorer piece of this, but we're also going to demo OneDrive Explorer as well. So we're going to go to OneDrive here really quick. And we have to wait for Veeam to go ahead and open up OneDrive Explorer on the back end, so just give us a few moments here while this goes through. All right, we have our user, ODS Engineering, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this button to browse the OneDrive items. All right, great. So here we can see all of the items that are in that user's folder. And if we click over here, we can see that they're going to match up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and highlight this PowerPoint presentation, which was actually a VeeamON presentation given by one of our engineers about 2 years ago, I believe. And I'm going to go ahead and hit delete. All right, that's gone. But maybe I'm a user and I said, well, you know what? I have this VMware image. I wanted to delete that. I don't need it in my OneDrive. I don't know why it got replicated up there, but I accidentally clicked on my PowerPoint presentation. And I need to give that presentation in 5 minutes. IT administrator, please help me. What can I do? Well, you as an administrator simply need to go to that user's folder, as we're already here, find the PowerPoint presentation, which we can see here, and then restore document to the original location. Now, when I click on that, what's going to happen is it's going to pop up and basically ask me for credentials as far as connecting to the Office 365 environment. Now, we don't store any of these credentials. These need to be provided on every restore, just like if you are using regular Veeam for Office 365. And we're going to go ahead and enter in this password here. And you can also add additional email addresses. So if you wanted to include that user to let them know when that data has been restored, you're free to do that. We're going to get a warning that the current data is going to be overwritten. Well, that data is gone, so we don't really care. All right, and there is a success. Now, as we can see up here, we have a task getting added into our ods.rocks queue, and we can see that the restore of the OneDrive document is going. And let's go ahead and see. Okay, we're waiting for that document to get restored here, so we'll just give it a few moments. All right, looks like we have an error very quickly here. Let me just go ahead and give that another shot, and we'll see if it wants to behave. It's possible I fat-fingered the password. All right, now because this document is so small, as we can see, it's only 43 megabytes pretty much. Should be restored rather quickly. And we're still waiting for it, no problem. While we wait for that, let's go ahead and prepare our SharePoint environment. So here we have our ODS testing site. It's a very basic SharePoint site. It's really doesn't have too much in it. We can see our wonderful logo, our CEO, Matt Chesterton over here. We have a web part. We've got a nice little news ad here. We have some other pages, but it's going to be pretty minimal compared to other folks. Again, this is just a testing environment, but let's go ahead and see if we can mess it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and delete this pretty web part we have with all those wonderful pictures. We're going to publish it. And as you can see, a user is going to log in and say, wow, this is completely different. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, so while that's deleted right there, we can see that the OneDrive document is complete. Apologize about that before. That was probably just me mistyping the password. And as we can see, that document has been fully restored into the OneDrive environment. So now that we've gone ahead and deleted our web part in our SharePoint document, let's go ahead and go back to our restore point. And we're going to check out SharePoint Explorer this time. And this is the ODS testing website that we're going to be mucking around with here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to browse site documents. And what this is going to do is just kind of show me all of the individual documents in that site, whether it's the home page, any kind of images, anything like that. Again, we're just going to wait here for a few moments while we wait for the SharePoint Explorer to come up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this, as we can see, this is ODS Testing Home. I'm going to find this home page document and restore it. And the end goal is we're going to get that wonderful web part with all those pretty pictures and everything coming back for us. All right, perfect. So if we navigate over to the end, we can see we have our home document. And I'm going to go to Actions and Restore Document to Original Location. Again, we're always going to ask for these credentials every single time because we don't want to risk having anything overwritten with someone who doesn't have control. So even though you're already authenticated, even though the service is already set up, we're always going to be asking for these credentials. And we're always going to make sure that you understand that that data is going to be overwritten. Perfect. Okay, great. So while we wait for this to go through, we also have some other options. So let's say we have a emails or a OneDrive document that we don't necessarily want to revert back to its original state. Maybe we just want to grab it for compliance reasons or what have you. Maybe we just want to, take a look at it, see what the employee might have been doing. We have a number of options available to us. We can save it as a zip file and download it directly. We can actually save it to a different part of our Office 365 infrastructure. So if you have an admin share, we can save it there. There's a number of options available to you as far as actually saving this data. You can also email some documents that you recover from OneDrive. However, as a lot of us know, emailing is pretty limited as far as attachment sizes, so that might only be good for something like a Word document or something along those lines that's going to fit those smaller email attachment sizes. Most of our customers will go and actually zip it, pull it down, or restore it somewhere else in OneDrive to be able to interact with that data. Okay, let's see if I went ahead and figure that again. Nope, I see restore document is complete here. It only took about a little less than a minute. And if we go back to our ODS testing site and refresh, voila, we have our pretty pictures back again. So I had a few more things to show as far as restoring some individual items, such as we have our nice little test list over here. We are going to restore some of these individual test list items, some other items as far as some of these pages, but we are running a little short on time, so we're going to go ahead and skip that. However, if you are interested in some of the additional functionality and what can and can't be restored with offsite data syncs, Office 365 backup powered by Veeam, please don't hesitate to ask in the Q&A. We want to leave as much time for that as possible. So with that in mind, we're going to switch back to our PowerPoint. And we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the other solutions that are available. Now, our engineers and experts at Offsite Data Sync did some comparisons as far as what Offsite Data Sync and Veeam can provide you with our platform versus some of the other Office 365 backup solutions out there. Now, we can, I'm not going to go through every single thing here, but we can clearly see some difference, namely the price that we have is pretty competitive. We offer a free trial that is much longer than most of the other competitors, and this allows you to trial this solution and ensure that it's going to be available for you and that it's going to work for your needs. And also our compliance is reaching much farther than some of the other competitors out there. And just very quickly, you might be asking yourself, well, why Offsite Data Sync? Well, honestly, Kelly gave a great introduction to us and how we're a trusted Veeam partner. We've been recognized twice as Veeam Partner of the Year, recognized for outstanding performance. We have some great experienced engineers on staff. We have Tier 4 U.S. data centers with every compliance you could possibly imagine. We're credentialed professionals. We have everything under the book as far as certifications go, and we have engineers and experts on staff who can do everything from VMware to Hyper-V to networking to you name it. We're a forward-thinking company, so we're always trying to think about what's next, hence our jumping on providing this platform. We also provide professional services at fair market prices, so we understand that our experts, they are some of the top of the line experts in this field, and some folks might want to utilize their professional services. More than happy to provide that for you. And we do have a global presence serving North America, EMEA, and APAC markets. So no matter where your business is, we can provide a solution for that. So that being said, thank you so much. Just to close everything out, I'm just going to pass it off to Kelly, who's going to help us field some questions. Kelly, back to you.
Hey, thanks, Brad. Thanks, Brandon. Great job. Yeah, it's been busy over here at the Q&A box. So one very popular question has been, everybody seems to want to get a copy of the slide deck or the presentation. So yes, Offsite Data Sync will be sending that out, especially the recording of this session. And Brandon has been kind of in the background answering some of these questions, but I wondered if we maybe could talk through a couple of them. One here towards the end is like, how can we, and this was just moments ago, how can we configure at our end Veeam with our current O365 environment? And I think we want to clarify if we're asking, how to get it set up. So Brandon or Brad, could one of you maybe address that?
Yeah, I can certainly address that. So even though the solution is powered by Veeam, all of the configuration takes place on the services.offsitedatasync.com portal. So it's as easy as going through those 3 clicks as we talked about before. Even if you don't have Veeam backup and replication, which is the primary Veeam product available to you, you're free to use Offsite Data Sync's cloud-to-cloud solution, and that's all being configured through that portal. All you need is your credentials to log in Office 365, along with an Offsite Data Sync login, which you can reach out to any Offsite Data Sync sales engineer or sales account executive to receive those credentials, and you can set up your account and get rolling. Also, I believe we have the link that you can use to start your Office 365 journey, and I'll just leave that up here just so you can take a look at that sign up.
Cool, great, thank you. Okay, another question came up about how much, and Brandon, you did answer this, but I thought maybe we could talk it through. How much storage and or restore points do we get through ODS?
Yeah,
so
go ahead. I was going to say maybe. Well, yeah, I was just going to say, from a Veeam perspective, that's completely up to you. You can back up as frequently as every 5 minutes with the product itself, and you can keep your data for as long as you want. Maybe Brad can speak a little more to how ODS offers that to its customers.
Yeah, with ODS, we don't care how much data you back up. You can back up as much as you want. You can keep it as long as you want. It's really none of our business. We basically just charge you a per-month mailbox fee, and that's it. So as little or as often as you want to back up that data, as long as you're paying that mailbox fee, you can back up that mailbox as much as you want.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good answer. Let's see. How long can I keep my backups, and how do I specify retention? Maybe that kind of goes hand in hand with your answer just a moment ago.
Yeah, that's all configured in the backup job itself. And again, you're free to have that data retained as long or as little as you want. Really makes no difference to us, and it's just as much as you need compliance for. So as long as you want to keep it, keep it.
Okay. Okay. More questions coming in. Are backups performed as differentials from previous full backups of a mailbox or OneDrive account, or is each backup a full backup of the account at the time the backup is scheduled to take place?
Yeah, I can grab that. So the backups are incrementals. So the first backup that you do is a full backup of either the entire organization, or you can also specify by the object, users, groups, things like that. But yes, the first backup is a full. Everything else after that would just be the incremental changes.
Great. Good question, Michael. Okay, this is from Mike. For Exchange 365 backup, is that done per user or as one complete backup of all inboxes? And it further says that also leads to a restore question. For Exchange 365, can I restore emails for one user? And if so, to what granularity? The whole inbox, by date, or down to a specific email?
Yeah, I can feel. Sure, Brandon has some insight as far as what the back-end product can offer, but with Office 365 Backup by Offsite Data Sync, which is basically powered by Veeam, you have the ability to back up whichever users you want. You can restore everything down to folders. You can restore individual mail items. There's a full search function as far as searching that, and we actually do go into that on a previous webinar. Granted, the interface has kind of changed a little bit because I think this previous webinar was close to about 8 or 9 months ago, and we've kind of upgraded our platform a bit since then. But all the functionality is still the same. You can log in and find that user, restore whatever individual mail items they have, anything like that. So you have full control over your Exchange Office 365 environment, and you can choose to back up whomever you want and restore from whomever or wherever you want.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, something different with ODS from, some of the other service providers out there, and doing this with a Veeam product on site is that ODS is one of the few partners who have, created the self-service portal that we just saw. So with that portal, you're able to log in and do the same functionality happening on the back end, but it's all from, over the web versus how it was before and with still some of our other service providers where you actually have to use Veeam products installed at your location to do the restores, which can sometimes cause, additional deployments and overhead. So with ODS, you get kind of just a clean web face to do whatever kind of restore you want.
Great, thank you. They just keep coming in. Can ODS Veeam also back up mail-enabled public folders, or can it only work on named user mailboxes? If public folders can be backed up, would those folders count as a user for licensing purposes?
I'm going to revert to Brandon as far as the technology aspect, because I believe that functionality, and Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, was just added into the 2.0 version of the product. And then licensing, I'm going to have to revert you over to our sales team to determine that. I'm just the guy who makes everything work, so I'm not 100% positive about that. If you reach out to our sales team, they'll be more than happy to answer that question for you.
Yeah, and from a technical perspective, we definitely can back those up. Public mailboxes, shared mailboxes, all that good stuff. So we allow you to back up any of those. But yeah, and then the licensing, of course, would be determined by ODS. So.
Okay. Hey, this is a good question. Can the restore functionality, can it be used to restore to another user?
Yes.
So you can pick up an item or an email and send it to somebody else.
Yeah. Does that work with the web interface as well, Brad, for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I showed it a
Cool.
little bit, but we were running out of time, so unfortunately I didn't get to show as much as I wanted. But when you do a restore, you have the option to restore it to its original location. You can restore it to a different location, which means a different location inside that Office 365 environment. You can also download that item as a zip file if we're talking about OneDrive and I believe Exchange. And you can also email that file if we're talking about OneDrive as well. And again, just the thing about that is just recognize that a lot of email providers have limits to attachment sizes. So a lot of times, unless the file is under 15 megabytes, I want to say is kind of the typical limit, unless it's increased since last time I looked, might have. That's going to be kind of the limit. So it certainly is capable of that, and there's actually a number of other options that you can use to restore it if you need to restore it locally or email it to someone or what have you.
Awesome.
Great. Great. Thanks, Brian, for the good question there. And this one kind of stems from it. So Dale's got a question. So Dale is asking, I have 365 licenses that get reused. So I get new mailboxes and OneDrive files. Would I have access to past users?
That's going. Go ahead, Brandon. Apologies.
Yeah, no worries. I don't know if I can answer that. That's kind of an Office 365 specific question. What I can tell you is that if you have, the ability, Veeam has to make an API call in order to back those Office 365 accounts up. So I would assume they would still have to be within that Office 365 organization. So it would just be from whatever scope that you could see those objects, right? When you add an organization in, you're able to add the entire organization, or you can specify by users and groups. So if you wanted to, test it out and see if those would be added, if those are visible in your organizational scope of Office 365, then definitely. But it would just be whether or not those existed when we made that API call to do the backup.
Great. Thank you so much. And really the other questions that have come in involve pricing. Brad, you had a slide on pricing there at the bottom. I think it said $3 per mailbox, yes. But yes, everyone said there's some pricing there, but obviously they've got this great promotion going on that Brad had mentioned about using that promo code O365 BOGO, buy one, get one. So you would definitely want to contact your sales team, right, Brad? Is there a particular email address that they should write to get a quote?
Yeah, so actually I think if they sign up using the link above, that's automatically going to get them in touch with their sales team. And a lot of folks on the webinar are also already offsite data sync customers, I've noticed. So if you already have a sales representative, feel free to reach out to them, and they're going to be your point of contact for Office 365 as well.
Great. Okay. Well, great job. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Brad. I think with that, we are running short on time. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Dale, did your question get answered? Hopefully we'll hear right back from him.
And as an aside, Kelly, you can always email the distribution group sales@offsitedatasync.com as well. That's kind of the general way to reach out for sales inquiries. So if you have any other questions about offsite data sync, what we do, what other services we offer, that's the typical inquiry route, just to kind of get the conversation started and learn how we can use our expertise to help you.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you for those of you that attended today's presentation. We will get the presentation in your hands shortly. And well, thank you so much. And I guess this concludes today's presentation. Thank you all.
All right, guys. Have a great one.